Uh, Today, on behalf of Philosophy Family, I extend a hearty welcome to all of you for joining the special Sunday webinar of Philosophy Family. Friends, today we have invited one of the eminent scholars of our country, Professor Dr. Surya Kant Maharana of University of Allahabad, Prayagraj. Professor Surya Kant has a teaching experience of more than 20 years in different reputed institutes of our country. And now Professor Maharana is working as an associate professor of philosophy in the University of Allahabad, Prayagraj. And Professor Maharana, besides the teaching experience, he has many administrative assignments in different universities. Whenever he's assigned any duty, any responsibility, he successfully executes all the activities and has been awarded for his excellency, for his dynamic efforts in implementing different projects of the university. Professor Maharana has is also working as a guide in both the uh, postgraduate and postdoctoral, doctoral and postdoctoral fellows. Dr. Maharana has been awarded different prestigious awards for his contribution in philosophy, research, education, and in different disciplines. Dr. Maharana has been awarded different scholarship in different universities by Government of India, UGC, ICPA, and Dr. Maharana has successfully submitted all the projects of Government of India, ICPA, as a general fellow of ICPA, UGC, and of different universities. Dr. Maharana has completed his PhD from University from Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati, on Shankar and Husserl investigations on consciousness in 2005. Professor Maharana has been associated with different projects, the different academic and co-curricular projects of the university. And the specialization of Dr. Maharana is professional ethics, administrative ethics, logic, metaphysics, symbol logic, modern Western philosophy, continental philosophy, uh, comparative religion, and Indian philosophy. So I do not want to explore all the things that Dr. Maharana uh, has, and he's a very dynamic scholar. And previously, we have witnessed uh, his scholarly lectures on different occasions of philosophy family. So, on behalf of philosophy family, I extend a hearty welcome to Dr. Maharana for his presence, for his agreement with us, and for his uh, scholarly attitude on philosophy, on different disciplines. Today, on this occasion, I welcome Professor Ranjit Ghosa, Professor Avinash, Professor Vishnu Chodita, Professor Vijay, Professor Neeraj Kumar, Professor Alija Rani, and many other scholars that I can see their faces that is on the screen. So I welcome them. I welcome our admin, Dr. Pramod Kumar Das, to be with us and to have a connectivity with Dr. Maharana for inviting him to this uh, National Forum of Philosophy Family. So I do not want to speak much on Dr. Maharana. I welcome him. I welcome all the scholars, teachers to be associated with us on this occasion. And now I would like to request Professor Surya Kant Maharana to speak on the topic Neti Neti and Epoche, a Vedantic introduction and Husserlian Phenomenology. I extend hearty welcome to Dr. Maharana and request him to commence the talk on the scheduled topic. Dr. Maharana.
My most honorable, respected, dignified teachers, Professor Ranjit Ghosh, all other professors on the screen, my friends, Neerajji from Batala, I can see Prasantji from Lucknow, Avinashji and many others, Dr. Pramod Kumar Das, the coordinator, Professor Kailas Sir, and many others. A very good evening to all of you. At the outset, I am very happy to be a part and parcel of the philosophy family once again after a considerable gap of not less than 2 years of time. And for this, I must thank the organizer, Dr. Pramod Kumar Das, for extending an invitation to me for delivering a lecture on the topic that I have decided today for introduction in this philosophy family. Yesterday evening, late evening, Dr. Das gave me a ring saying that, "Sir, we need your talk tomorrow, so be ready." So, at an urgent note, I had to accept this invitation. But then I couldn't do justice with reflecting over a new topic, but rather I decided to go back to an old topic of mine, which I had reflected over during my PhD days. And I find these days that that topic has not yet been touched by the scholars around. Basically, my interest of research centers around continental philosophy and Vedanta. My PhD thesis is also based on this topic. So, while working on this topic, I had left one concept almost untouched. And that concept is what is today's lecture's title: Neti Neti and Epoche, a Vedantic introduction with Husserlian Phenomenology. My PhD thesis titled as Shankara and Husserl Investigations on Consciousness. In that thesis, I discussed so many aspects of both these great philosophers, Edmund Husserl from Germany and Adi Shankaracharya or Shankara from India. But then this particular topic was somehow could not gain much focus or light. So yesterday evening, of course, in the very late evening, I had a reflection to my mind that why not speak on this unexplored area, which is not being touched by almost all the contemporary philosophers who have done a considerable work on Shankar and Edmund Husserl. All the works that I have reviewed so far on this particular area of research, Vedanta and phenomenology, I have in mind an array of philosophers, contemporary philosophers, such as the great Jain Mohanty, T.P. Chattopadhyay, Lester Embry, K.C. Bhattacharya, K.K. Bagchi, R. Balasubramaniam, even Professor S. Paneerselvam, his direct student, Devabrat Sinha, G.C. Nayak, Anindita Niyogi Balslev, Bina Gupta, and many others. They have almost focused on the concept of consciousness for comparison between these two great philosophers. But this particular concept, what Edmund Husserl declares in his program of phenomenology, that epoche or suspension of natural attitude or bracketing is a must, is an indispensable factor for revealing the nature of reality. And what is reality? The reality is the pure consciousness, which he calls as the transcendental subjectivity or the transcendental ego. Now, in parallel to this concept, we come to find a peculiar concept in the Vedanta of Shankaracharya, the concept of Neti Neti. This concept, of course, is not coined or conceptualized by Shankaracharya himself, but it has been derived by him from the Upanishads, especially the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And he wanted to use this concept of Neti Neti, not this, to explain the nature of consciousness, rather, the nature of pure consciousness as the foundation of all knowledge and experience. At the first sight, we hardly come across any kind of commonality between these two great philosophers. So, prima facie, people say that there is hardly any connection between these two great philosophers. So, why to make a comparative study? And what is the background of doing an interaction between these two great traditions, the continental tradition on the one hand and the Vedantic tradition on the other hand? Again, the scholars say, the critics of this comparative study, they say that the goal of the Vedantic tradition is something which is called as moksha, mukti from all suffering, from bondage. Whereas the continental tradition does not have this kind of a aim in view. So they are completely diverse from each other. So hardly there is any point in making an interaction between the two. As a reply to this kind of an perception, I had proposed long back in my thesis that although their backgrounds are completely different, they hail from various cultural, religious, social backgrounds, but both of them propose an epistemological program, and the aim of which is to rediscover the nature of pure consciousness as the ultimate foundation of all our experience and knowledge. They say the goal of philosophy should be to discover the I consciousness. And this is pretty common to both Shankar on the one hand and Husserl on the other hand. So I thought, why not make a study of these two epistemologists and confine our discussion only to the epistemological level rather than any religious or any kind of soteriological or moksha oriented level. So, keeping this in mind, I have confined my today's discussion only to the epistemological level of interaction between these two great philosophers. Having this background in mind, I have planned my presentation in three parts. In the first part, I will discuss the nature and purpose of Neti Neti. In the second part, I'll discuss the nature and purpose of epoche. And in the third part or the final part, I will engage an interaction between Neti Neti and epoche and then conclude with the two fundamental points. The two fundamental points that I have arrived at are like this. Number one, although Sankara aims at moksha as the only goal of life, but this moksha can be attained only and only by the knowledge, within quote unquote, the knowledge of I consciousness. This I consciousness has to be realized. Otherwise, there is no way out to moksha. The second point of conclusion, the last point. And although Edmund Husserl does not aim at moksha, but aim at the discovery of I consciousness, because this I consciousness is the foundation of all knowledge and experience. And this absolute foundation resolves all crises of European sciences, according to Husserl. In one of his writings, the crisis of European man and transcendental phenomenology, he says that one of the greater aim of phenomenology is to resolve the crisis of all European sciences. And this crisis can be resolved only through transcendental phenomenology. He calls his phenomenology as transcendental because phenomenology is founded on the transcendental consciousness, not the empirical consciousness. So, his main discovery was the transcendental consciousness. So, he said that phenomenology is a kind of epistemology. So, epistemologically, we have to know, we have to understand the nature of our own consciousness. So, what is this I consciousness that has to be discovered and that should be made the foundation of all sciences? And therefore, philosophy or phenomenology should be made the science of all sciences. This is what my conclusion would be. But then, let us begin our discussion from the first part, that is the nature and purpose of Neti Neti. Now, just like the Husserlian phenomenology, along with most of the contemporary philosophers, I would like to call the philosophy of Shankara as Advaita phenomenology. I have derived this terminology from R. Balasubramanian and Devraj Sinha. This is an interesting and very finely coined Indian term, which I appreciate. So one of the basic aims of conducting this interaction between Vedanta and phenomenology is to appreciate the Advaita tradition of consciousness, especially as delineated by Adi Shankaracharya. My reading of Edmund Husserl earlier made me to appreciate Shankara's concept of consciousness pretty parallel to what Husserl thought about it. So that's why I wanted to make a study on the nature of consciousness on both these philosophers. So Neti Neti in Advaita phenomenology. To understand the concept of Neti Neti, let us start from where Adi Shankaracharya had begun with. Now, as all of us know, that the, the philosophy of Shankaracharya begins with to systematize the philosophy of Shankar to answer some questions like Ko aham, who am I? Kuta ayata, where from have I come? And where shall I go? So, after all, who am I? This has to be discovered. And all his works, whether the, the commentary works or the works of the hymns or the Upanishadic works, any work, if we take into consideration, we find that everywhere he discusses that the goal of all knowledge or the king of all knowledge is self knowledge, Atma Vidya or Brahma Vidya. So, this Atma Vidya, self knowledge or I consciousness has to be discovered and rediscovered. And what is this consciousness? Shankara says that the Shruti, Smriti, and all the logical text of India, technically called the Prasthanatraya, they declare that Nirguna Brahman or the formless Brahman, the non dual Brahman, is the ultimate reality. So, this ultimate reality, non dual Brahman, is variously defined in various texts. For example, in the Upanishads, we find that while defining this ultimate reality, Shankaracharya says that Brahman is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. And in some other place, it is said that Brahman is Sat Chid and Anand. Sat means existence, that Brahman exists, there is no doubt about its existence. And this existence is equivalent to intelligent or consciousness. And this consciousness is further, along with existence, is identical with Anand as well. So these three things are intertwined. They are not qualities of Brahman. They are just the essence of Brahman. They are one with Brahman. So, quite essentially, Brahman is understood in its popular form, Chit. Chit is accompanied by Sat on the one hand and Ananda on the other hand. So we say that it is Chit consciousness. This is the essential nature of Brahman or the self of all of us. Now, this formless self, it doesn't have any form, doesn't have any quality, doesn't have any adjective, doesn't have any visheshana. It is free from all adjuncts. Therefore, it cannot be described in any sort of language. So, this formless, pure consciousness, which is non dual, one only, without a second, has to be realized in this life, if at all we need to attain moksha. The question is, what is the way? What is the way out? What is the method of attaining this I consciousness or Nirguna Brahman? Shankaracharya proposed, following the Shruti tradition, namely the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, that the only method to attain this ultimate reality is the method of darshana, shravana, manana, and nididhyasana. आत्मावार द्रष्टव्य श्रोतव्य मंतव्य nididhyasitavya. And in the following this process of darshana, shravana, manana, and nididhyasana, at the final stage called as nididhyasana or deep meditation, Shankara says that one begins by suspending the existence of everything. For example, first of all, one has to suspend the existence of the body, suspend the existence of mind, then the senses, and the rest. This is very beautifully explained by Adi Shankaracharya in his Shata Shloki, wherein he begins by reciting by saying that Mana Buddhya Ahankara Chittani Naham Na Chakshiv. Mana Buddhya Ahankara Chittani Naham. Neither I am the mind, nor I am intelligence, nor I am chitta, nor ego. Nothing else. So all these adjuncts have been kept on suspended. And finally, what happens? One finds only the perceiver, the onlooker, technically called as the Sakshi Chaitanya, the witness consciousness, which is left out without any kind of perceived objects. This is the pure, formless, contentless consciousness which is obtained as the solid foundation of all knowledge and experience. And in this context, Shankaracharya quotes from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 2.3.6 and declares that Neti Neti, this method is called as Neti Neti, na iti, not this, not this. This is the only method of describing the ultimate reality called as Satyasya Satyam, the truth of all truths. Because we do not have any distinguishing mark, any name, any form, or any quality, etc., to describe this nature of reality. This is because only such nature of the reality can be experienced, can be realized, but not spoken of. So, this is how the Advaita phenomenology has taken into consideration Neti Neti is a kind of method of suspension of everything, which would be called by Edmund Husserl later as the method of epoche, the method of reduction, the method of suspension, even the method of description. So, finally, we conclude in this section that Neti Neti is also a method of reduction, it's a method of epoche by which we eliminate, we suspend all thoughts about all things or objects except our own self, that is Brahman or I consciousness. So finally, this I consciousness in the form of Nirguna Brahman is realized, is experienced, which gives rise to moksha or mukti. Now, with this background in mind, let us move on to the Husserlian phenomenology. So, as we just saw in Advaita phenomenology in the first part, Edmund Husserl, in his program of phenomenology, which he declares in many of his writings, including logical investigations, Cartesian meditations, formal and transcendental logic, etc., that phenomenology is a 20th century philosophical movement whose sole aim is the discovery of consciousness. So just like Shankaracharya began philosophizing with the question, Ko aham, who am I? Kuta ayata. Parallel to Sankara's thought, Edmund Husserl aims at the discovery of consciousness as the sole aim of the phenomenological program. Edmund Husserl says that in phenomenology we study appearances, phenomena plus logos, study of appearances. So, whatever is presented to consciousness is an appearance only. And therefore, phenomenology is a kind of epistemology. It aims at knowing the phenomena as it appears to us. Therefore, phenomenology has been defined as the study and understanding of the appearances. In the same light, we can interpret Advaita phenomenology by saying that Advaita is also a phenomenology because it is also interested in studying the appearances. Except the Nirguna Brahman, the rest are only appearances. Asmad is the only subject, is the only consciousness, and Yushmad is the objectivity or the object. And whatever is an object to the subject is an appearance only. So therefore, Advaita is also a kind of phenomenology. So the slogan of phenomenology, according to Edmund Husserl, is return to the phenomena, return back to the life of living human subject, return back to the life of living human subject. How to return back to this living human subject? How to discover the living human subject? Edmund Husserl answers this question by saying that by purifying our consciousness from all presuppositions, all assumptions, all impositions, all constructions, all misconstructions on consciousness, by so many factors, such as science is one important factor, culture, religion, and the pre-existing, long-standing, traditional philosophical theories. They are imposed in advance on our consciousness, as a result of which consciousness is found in an unpurified state, giving rise to the fact that we are not able to know the real nature of consciousness. So, therefore, Husserl says in his early writings, freedom from all prejudice of tradition and history is the goal of phenomenology. Freedom from all prejudice of tradition and history is the aim of phenomenology. Just like Wittgensteinian philosophy, we can also divide Edmund Husserl's philosophy into two broad parts. The first three major writings of Husserl, philosophy of arithmetic, logical investigations, formal and transcendental logic as the early Husserl, and then the later Husserl comprising of three other major works. Number one, ideas, then Cartesian meditations, and finally followed by the crisis of European sciences and transcendental phenomenology, shortly called as the crisis. So in early writings, Husserl declares that we need to get rid of all the prejudice, we need to get rid of all the presuppositions. Therefore, he also called in his later philosophy, redefined phenomenology as the science of a presupposition-less science. Phenomenology is a presupposition-less science. So, in this program of presupposition-less science, where consciousness or the I consciousness has to reflect on its object by suspending all its presuppositions, all its impositions, and all that which has made it unpurified. And for that, he says that we need to get rid of all the earlier philosophical theories, all the epistemologists, popular epistemologists, especially of the modern period, which defined the knowledge system comprising of various epistemological theories, such as the mental representation theory, propounded by Locke and many others, and then the copy theory, and so many other theories of that sort, has to be completely relinquished, because the goal of phenomenology, one of the goals of phenomenology, is to engage directly with the reality. A phenomenologist must not be interested in any kind of a object which is copied and forwarded to the mental faculty. So our knowledge must not be a copy of anything. Our knowledge must not be a mental representation of anything. Rather, our knowledge must be based on a direct contact with reality, direct contact with the objectivity. Therefore, one of the slogans of phenomenology is return back to the living human subject, the living world, the daily world, or technically, in Husserl's words, the life world. So, the question that is being raised by Husserl is that what is the method by adopting which we can attain to the purification of consciousness? We can suspend all presuppositions, misconstructions, advance impositions on our consciousness, and revive the live contact with reality. So, how to engage directly with the world without any kind of mediation, or without any kind of assumption in between? To answer this question, Husserl introduces a new method, a method of reduction, method of epoche, or the method of suspension of natural attitude, or sometimes, as Morley-Ponty, one of his disciples, calls it as the method of description. Morley-Ponty says that when a phenomenologist begins attaining the knowledge of the world, when it engages with the world directly, one has to start with absolute poverty of knowledge. Absolute poverty is an essential precondition of phenomenological method, that we should be very poor in knowledge. We should understand that we know nothing. We should start from the 0 point, absolute poverty. And this method is called as the method of suspension, suspension of natural attitude. What is the natural attitude here? By natural attitude, Husserl understands that normally our attitude is the attitude of a modern epistemologist. Epistemologically speaking, normally we obtain knowledge either through the empiricistic method or through the rationalistic method, or through idealistic method, realistic method, or any such modern or contemporary method. All these methods are naturally applied by us while philosophizing epistemologically. This natural attitude, which happens to us in a very natural way, has to be suspended, which is called a suspension of natural attitude. Why? Because if we suspend them, by suspending, he again means putting them into brackets. This is called as bracketing. Epoche means bracketing. So you put them in brackets, suspend for some time. So keep them out of our consciousness, keep them aside. And as a consequence of which, we can have a direct contact with the reality. Nothing should be taken for granted. Nothing should be assumed blindly. So the method of bracketing means suspending everything. The meaning of the word epoche means suspending everything while describing the nature of reality, while describing the nature of the world, which is present in front of us. So it is a presupposition-less description of the phenomena. The world is a phenomena for us. It is an appearance for us, and it has to be described unconditionally. It has to be described without any kind of mediation. And what is this mediation? This mediation could be any kind of presupposition, any kind of philosophical theory, any kind of scientific theory. That has to be taken care of. Then what will happen? When this process is followed, when our consciousness is directly conducting the reality, the phenomena, then finally this method will lead back. The meaning of the word reduction means leading back. It is derived from a Latin word reducer. Reducer means leading back to the unprejudiced source of experience. The experience of the transcendental subjectivity, also called as the transcendental ego, the purified consciousness. This is what is attained. This is the realm of the unprejudiced source of experience. So, is a method, epoche is a concept which is just running towards the transcendental subjectivity. This purified consciousness, according to Edmund Husserl, constitute the world in the sense that it creates the world, not in the literal sense of the word creation, but epistemology, its being is derived from, its existence is derived from transcendental subjectivity, also called as the purified consciousness. Purified or pure consciousness, therefore, here means that consciousness is purified of all presuppositions imposed on the consciousness. This purified or transcendental ego cannot be grasped by any ordinary perception, but only when the reduction or epoch is applied. Attitude as the residuum, absolute consciousness, as the residuum of all suspension. It is finally left out untouched, and it survives all kinds of reduction. Thus, epoche of the this transcendental subjectivity is distinguished by Husserl from another sort of subjectivity, which is empirical subjectivity or psychological subjectivity, the in the process of are completely bracketed out. They couldn't survive the reduction. So what survived finally the method of reduction or epoche is this transcendental subjectivity. And what is the nature of this transcendental subjectivity? What is the structure of this transcendental subjectivity or I consciousness? Husserl says that this subjectivity is a ownerless subjectivity, an ownerless ego. It doesn't have any owner. Nobody owns this. What does it mean? Again, Husserl clarifies it in the Cartesian meditations that it is an impersonal ego. It doesn't belong to, it is not of any person. It is impersonal. Now, this concept of impersonal ego now can also be connected with the Nirguna Brahman of Adi Shankaracharya would say. The philosophy of Shankaracharya, as we understand, is also called as impersonalism. Nirakara, Nirguna Nirakaravada. So Husserl seems to have a concept, a similar concept, parallel with the Vedantic tradition, that this is ownerless. It is, it is not of any person, it is impersonal. And one in another context, Husserl seems to have said that Edmund Husserl can die. Edmund Husserl is a person who can die. But his transcendental ego, which is ownerless, can never die. It can live on, it can live on and live on. And in another place, in the crisis of Europe, he seems to have said that this ownerless ego, this pure consciousness, has the capacity to survive even all kinds of destructions the world can assume. Not only all reductions, all epoche, all suspensions, but also it has the capacity to survive any destruction whatsoever. However, I couldn't understand what his implication would be. He doesn't make it clear what exactly he means by saying that the ego can survive all destructions. So finally, he says that this transcendental subjectivity is the remainder with all its correlates. It is connected livingly, lively with its objective correlate. Ego cogito cogito. This is the sentence which he framed while criticizing Rene Descartes' notion of cogito ergo sum. As all of us know, the Descartes would say that cogito ergo sum, that means I think, therefore I am. Husserl says that Descartes has himself only to the personal ego, personal subject. He couldn't move out of that except the intervention of a supernatural reality called God. Here, Husserl would say that there is no need of bringing in any kind of supernatural reality like God. The transcendental subjectivity, with its own structure, suffices, is capable enough to connect itself with a world essentially. It must have an essential connection with the world. So, pure consciousness is essentially connected with the world. This is what he means by saying ergo cogito cogitatum. That means I think something. Therefore, I am. When you think, it is proved that you are already there. But that has to be made clarified, which Descartes failed, according to Edmund Husserl. So I think something, ergo cogita cogitatum, is what is being delineated by him here. And to explain this, he gives two more essential concepts: the subject pole and the object pole. The subject pole is technically called by him as noesis, and the object pole as noema. So this noesis and the noema, they are interrelated. Neither the noesis is a part of the noema, nor the noema is a part of the noesis. Despite of this relation of two poles, they are interrelated. The question is how these two poles are interconnected. To explain the connection between these two, Edmund Husserl brings in another important concept: intentionality. The transcendental subjectivity or pure consciousness is intentional by nature. And what is intentionality? Husserl defines intentionality by saying that all consciousness is consciousness of something. All consciousness is an act of something. That means every consciousness is directed towards something outside. The outside object may or may not exist physically, but then it must have a kind of sense for the consciousness. It must have a kind of being, a mode of being for the subjectivity. But nevertheless, it is connected, it is intended. So, intentionality is being defined in this way: an act of thinking, for example, is a thinking of something. An act of seeing is a seeing of something. An act of eating is eating something. An act of hearing is hearing something. So that means you cannot have the act of hearing or the act of seeing without the seen or the heard object. So the object is finally connected with the transcendental subjectivity, which is pure by its nature. So it is only a pure subjectivity which can grasp the real nature of the objectivity or the object pole. So ultimately, the I consciousness or the transcendental subjectivity is discovered by Husserl, making it the foundation of all sciences. And later on, he declares it in his concept of life world that it is the science of all sciences. Because without consciousness, the world cannot exist. The world derives its meaning and being from our consciousness. If the I consciousness is not there, then obviously the question of the existence of the world does not arise at all. This is what is the use of the term constitution according to Husserl. Constitution also plays a very important role in Husserlian phenomenology. Constitution means a kind of creation as well, a kind of formation, a kind of bringing the world into being, into existence. So basically, the being of the world is derived from the transcendental subjectivity, according to Russell. So with this, we come to the conclusion of the part two, wherein we have seen that Edmund Husserl also, like Adi Shankaracharya, like Advaita epistemology, Advaita phenomenology, arrives at the I consciousness, which is let us very quickly delve into the final part of my paper very briefly. An interaction between the Vedantic. The interaction between these two diverse traditions can be confined for the present purpose to the pure formless consciousness, nirguna, nirguna form of consciousness. In Vedantic phenomenology, Advaita phenomenology, we can call it as nirguna Brahman, the Satchid Ananda or Satyam Jnanam Anantam form of I consciousness, which could be treated as a parallel and which sounds to be a very good parallel of the Husserlian concept of the ownerless ego or the impersonal ego. Ego not belonging to any particular person. An ego, according to Husserl, which stands behind all epistemological activities, all epistemological acts, all kinds of suspensions, all kinds of bracketing, all kind of epoche, all sorts of phenomenological ego or epoche making ego or empirical ego. It stands behind as a static point. This point is understood by Russell in his early writings like Philosophy of Arithmetic or Theological Investigations as a null point, a 0 point, a point, although it is zero. So zero doesn't mean it's shunya. He says it is that point of geometry because Russell belongs to the mathematical and geometrical tradition. He begins his career with mathematics. From mathematics, he moves on to logic. From logic, he moves on to psychology. And from psychology, he moves on to philosophy. And from philosophy, he finally lands up at phenomenology. So all sorts of geometrical and mathematical calculations can be witnessed from the PhD thesis of Edmund Husserl, Calculus of Imaginative Variations, was the title of his PhD thesis, roughly speaking. Exact title I am not able to recall back. Calculus of Imaginative Variations. So he says that it is just like that point from where all kinds of lines of geometry can be drawn and extended. But without that particular point, any drawing of any line, any circle is a certain impossibility. That is why it is ownerless in that sense. Without this ownerless ego, no epistemological activity is ever possible. It is impersonal, doesn't belong to any person. So therefore, it doesn't have any sort of description. It lacks any description. So it cannot come to the forefront. It cannot be perceived. It cannot be experienced unless and until epoche is applied, suspension of the natural attitude is applied, or the method of reduction is implemented. So we find that the pure consciousness, whether it is in Nirguna Brahman of Shankara or it is the impersonal or ownerless ego of Husserl, both of them result from Neti Neti and Epoche respectively. And finally, the object pole, the noema. The noema for Husserl is an appearance only. It is a phenomena. And hence, it is contingent. Contingent in the sense, the phenomenal object may or may not be there, but it is having a kind of sense for the knower, the subjectivity. And this sense is constituted by, given by the subjectivity itself. So without this ownerless subjectivity, the meaning of the world cannot be ascribed to, cannot be given at all. But the objectivity of the object is contingent. May be there, may not be there. But it has a mode of being and a sense for the subjectivity. So noesis again called differently by Husserl in different writings. Sometimes he calls noesis as the subject pole, as transcendental subjectivity, and one which is responsible for transcendental intersubjectivity. Later on, he would speak of intersubjective community. There is a community, there is a society, the world is a society where there are so many transcendental subjectivities, ownerless egos, and they interact with each other. One confirms the experience of the other, as a result of which universal truths are established. So this intersubjective community, where there are many transcendental subjectivities, there is no one transcendental subjectivity. This notion goes against the Advaita phenomenology, where the I consciousness or Nirguna Brahman is considered to be only one reality. Husserl would go for many transcendental subjectivities or I consciousness. So here, there can also be a strong parallel between Husserl and the Advaita of this subject pole and object pole, noesis and noema, with what Advaita phenomenology would say Asmad and Yushmad. Asmad stands for the subjectivity or the subject pole, and Yushmad stands for the objectivity or the object pole, which consists of only appearances. So Advaita phenomenology would say that we have the experience of appearances only, and which are contingent. The appearance exists for some time and it does not at another time. Therefore, they are also contingent. And finally, what is the residuum or what is left out is the impersonal I or the ownerless I for both these great philosophers, Shankara and Husserl. With this, we come to the conclusion of the third part. And finally, a few words for the conclusion. Two important points I have derived from this above discussion as the concluding remarks. Although the Advaita phenomenology aims at moksha or mukti as the sole goal of human life, but this moksha is what? What is its nature? Its nature is just the realization of the I consciousness. So this I consciousness has to be known, has to be realized. Knowing in the sense, it has to be realized. It has to be seen, although it cannot be explained in language. It is indescribable, anirvachaniya, but then it can only be experienced. So epistemologically speaking, the I consciousness is the crux of Advaita phenomenology. The last concluding remark. And although for Edmund Husserl, the goal of continental philosophy or phenomenological philosophy is not moksha or freedom from bondage, suffering. It doesn't have any soteriological aim, but then it aims at the discovery of the I consciousness or the pure consciousness as the foundation of all knowledge and experience. Without this ownerless consciousness, without this impersonal consciousness, no epistemological act can be performed. Therefore, Edmund Husserl has laid down all these theoretical concepts, including intentionality, constitution, pure consciousness, life world, and many others, only to prove this fact that this pure, unprejudiced consciousness, this presuppositionless consciousness, is the befitting notion of consciousness to become the foundation of even all sciences across the Europe. And the crisis that the natural sciences are facing, according to Husserl, is because of this fact that they are not able to identify the very foundational structure of consciousness. And what is the foundational structure of consciousness? That it is the ownerless ego having intentionality as its logical, essential logical property, which makes the invention and discovery of scientific theories possible. All the concepts of sciences are possible just because of this undefeated foundation, undestructive foundation, and unreduced foundation. So, this ownerless ego or this transcendental subjectivity can survive any kind of reduction, any kind of destruction, any kind of philosophical any kind of philosophical destruction, any kind of philosophical criticism as well. So this should be the foundation, which should be the contribution of philosophy, which should be the contribution of phenomenology. So with this, I come to the conclusion of my presentation. I have taken a lot of time, probably more than one hour. So for this, I seek pardon from all of you. And at the end, once again, let me thank all the organizers, Professor Kailas Maharana, Professor Pramod Das, for giving me an opportunity to share some of my, of course, very old ideas in a new way with all my friends and teachers. Certainly, there would be mistakes somewhere, errors. So I seek all your comments, criticisms, and any other thought which would help me to improve this idea further. So, thank you very much, all my teachers, all my best wishes, all my friends, and everyone for bearing me for this longer period of time. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Okay, thanks so much, Professor Maharana, for engaging us not with any old idea, but with innovative idea. And today uh, you have made very comprehensive analysis, comprehensive discussion, uh, and Neti Neti, Epoche, Vedantic interpretation, and Husserlian phenomenology. And you have analyzed all the concept very clear. You have left no dirt for any kind of misunderstanding, and you have made it very clear that both the phenomenology, both the philosophy, the Vedantic uh, concept and the Husserlian concept, they explain the nature of pure consciousness as the foundation of all knowledge and foundation of all experience. And with this, you have made a comparative study of the continental uh, tradition and Vedantic tradition. And you have also made it very clear that both the backgrounds have given the epistemological foundation of all knowledge and experience. And you have given your talk, you have presented your talk in three parts. That is, first you have discussed the nature and purpose of Neti Neti, the concept of Shankar, and nature and purpose of Epoche, and finally you have given the interaction of Neti Neti and Epoch, and you have given that is your concluding remark. And I don't want to go into the details that you have explained, but you have made a very beautiful method of the method of suspension, the method of reduction of everything. That is so. While you have made a comparative study with the Vedantic concept of the Neti Neti, and you have given that Husserlian concept of epoche is returned back to living human subjects. And it is to have a daily world and the life world, and by purifying all our misconceptions, all our mental dispositions, mental impositions, and presuppositions. So today you have given a very innovative talk okay, before us, and you have given us the new method of application, the new method of reduction, or whatever that you have stated, and you have given your concluding remark that Husserl concept that is of epoche is ownerless subjectivity, it is ownerless ego, it is impersonal ego, and that is you have made a very connectivity with Nirvana Brahma or I consciousness or pure consciousness, and you have in a concluding remark you have made that Advaitic phenomenology aims at moksha, and it is based on the that is its aim is to realize the nature of relation of I consciousness, and it has to be realized. It has to be realized, and it cannot be spoken in linguistic form. And you have given the aim of Husserl. That's goal is to realize I consciousness. It aims at the discovery of I consciousness, and it's the foundation of all knowledge and experience. So you have given a innovative talk with us, and you have made it very clear, and your conceptual clarification both the philosophy is very clear, and I do not have anything, and I would like to request our Armeni Dr. Pramod Kumar Das to interact with our brilliant viewers. Over to Dr. Das.
Thank you, Dr. Maharana and Dr. Maharana, the speaker and the coordinator of this forum. We really enjoyed the talk. In one sentence, I can say Dr. Maharana spoke about two types of consciousness. One is phenomenal consciousness and the other is trans-phenomenal consciousness, what he called transcendental ego, etc. I shall have my observation later on. So now we shall go for interaction, discussion. So first I shall invite Professor Ranjit Ghosh sir. Sir, please have your observation or any question to Dr. Maharana, and he is also interested to accept the questions and responses. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Das. Am I audible? I think I am audible. So, this is such a nice and I should say lucid lecture by which one can have the idea of Husserlian phenomenology. And the way Professor Maharana has related it to Neti Neti of Sankara Acharya, this is definitely commendable, I should say. Now, I have some observations, and I think the thing is, now when, let's start with Husserl first. And when he's talking about epoche, and he's bringing two types of epoches. One is the universal epoche, and the other one is local one. So that universal local distinction, which Husserl brings in order to bring out his discovery of I consciousness, as you are saying, it is already there in Shankaracharya. Shankara never made such a distinction between universal and local. This is one thing. And the other thing I should say that the most important thing, lest I may forget, which you are mentioning time and again, that is actually the crux of the matter. That is what is giving us a relationship between the continental philosophy and Upanishadic and Vedantic philosophy, and especially the German philosophies of starting with Schopenhauer, Kant, Schopenhauer, and then Husserl, etc. Now the thing is the survival of the ego that you are talking about. So the survival of the ego, is it not same as as our concept of the transmigration of soul, or is it not same or similar to the Buddhist concept of memory? That Buddhists, they deny the existence of the soul, but they believe in rebirth. So in rebirth, the memory of this life passes on to the other. So we can bring a comparison between Buddha and Sankara's view, the general Hindu view, the transmigration of soul, with Husserl. So Husserl never mentions about soul. So you have discussed everything from the epistemological perspective. So next, when we pass on from epistemological to the metaphysical of metaphysics of Husserl, then we have to find out whether he is talking about this soul, God, etc. So I don't have much idea about this. I was taking classes on Husserl, but Husserlian metaphysics is such a jumbled thing. It is not very easy to understand everything. This is one thing. And another thing in Husserl itself, now take the case of Sankara's Neti Neti. So what happens there? That is also a very tricky thing. That Mano, Buddhi, Ahankara, he denies all this thing. And lastly, he arrives at Sivoham, Sivoham, I am this. So from Neti, Neti, Neti to Iti. So finally, he is arriving at the positivity of the things. And that positivity of things is not same as Sachidananda, because Sachidananda is the outcome of this Neti and Neti Neti. So Neti Neti is primal. Neti Neti is important. That will remain. And in one case, have read somewhere sometime, Vivekananda also accept this. Neti Neti will always remain. Sachidananda is just a fallout of this concept of Neti Neti. So this is one thing. And the other thing, take the case of Husserl. Now, Husserl is definitely following the method of Humean academic skepticism. That's why he, in his Cartesian meditation, what he was doing, what Descartes did. Descartes started with doubt and ultimately ended with the reality of the self. And the other variety of Greek variety of Pyrrhonian skepticism, there the beginning is doubt and end is also doubt. But in between them, the Greeks also proposed one academic skepticism where this doubt will remain, but still the object will also be there. We can doubt the object, but the doubt will definitely remain. That is at the academic level, and this should not interfere into our daily life. That, as Hume said in his inquiry on human understanding, there he brings a chapter on skepticism. So these are some observations and questions which you may elaborate. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, Professor Ghosh, for very, very thought-provoking and challenging questions which you have kept in front of me. Let me try to answer these questions. Let me start from the last question or observation that you have made regarding the academic skepticism. In case of Husserl, when we look at his writings and even lectures, we find that he says that the goal of philosophy or phenomenology is to attain a doubtless state or an objectivity grounded on doubtlessness can be possible only by the method of reduction. So he has given a line of serious criticisms against Pyrrho and many others of the Greek period and David Hume as well. Supporting Immanuel Kant and supporting René Descartes, he says that the beginning of philosophical inquiry could be doubt-laden. There is no doubt about this. And at many places, Husserl has declared René Descartes to be a genuine patriarch. I quote these two words, genuine patriarch of phenomenology. And he follows him as one of his ideals. He says that the great inspiration that I have got from God for this method of epoche is from René Descartes. And he follows these, the triad guru of the Greek period, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. He gives credit to them, saying that they should be our ideal. They are the ideal for the entire Western philosophy and even for the continental philosophy. Therefore, the entire program of phenomenological inquiry is not to end at doubt. It begins with doubt, just like René Descartes, and he gives credit to René Descartes for this and says that, like your Cartesian program, I am also landing with a doubtlessness inquiry, a doubtlessness concept, which can never be doubted at all. Just like in Advaita phenomenology, also Shankara says that the own self cannot be doubted. The doubter can never be doubted. Descartes also said the same thing. Shankar also says that just like fire cannot cancel its own one warmth, the way fire cannot cancel its heat or warmth, Similarly, the self can never be doubted. Husserl also says in the same thing that in order to doubt, the doubter has to be accepted first. But then it should not be a sort of a presupposition or assumption. It should be achieved, it should be obtained by the phenomenological method. So this would be my response to the last question. Now let us move on to the second one. You said about Shivoham, and Neti Neti. When Sankaracharya recites all these hymns, he grounds all these hymns to the Shruti of the Veda. He says that it is meant for practice. All these things get nullified when we attained the real nature of the I consciousness, including the Veda, including the Shruti. All they get vanished when the realization of the self or the swaprakasata of the self reveals itself. So therefore, all these Shruti dictums, all these theories can be considered only for practice, as long as we do not attain the ultimate. So therefore, there is no harm in this. Finally, Neti Neti only prevails. Once you attain the highest goal and return back, you say Neti Neti. We cannot describe that at all. So it is a method of practice only. It is not the ultimate best. Then again, you talked about the survival of ego, which Husserl had mentioned that it can survive altogether. It is very clear from his writings and his posthumous publications. In 1938, some of the writings of Edmund Husserl were published in Husserliana and many other texts, which clearly says that Husserl was never interested in any kind of metaphysics. That is why he emphasized the entire program of phenomenology as an epistemological business only. Martin Heidegger worked under him as a very close associate till the end of his life. And Martin Heidegger was interested in building of a kind of a phenomenological metaphysics with which Husserl was never interested at all. But despite of his disinterest, Martin Heidegger continued his phenomenological affair, where he says that the goal of phenomenology is to build a fundamental ontology. And there he goes on criticizing Husserl like anything, which all of us know about. So Husserl was never interested in metaphysics at all. He has rigorously, although he praises and gives much credit to René Descartes, he criticizes him for bringing in the concept of God to the entire rationalism of René Descartes, which is say that it was absolutely unnecessary. Why you brought in the metaphysics of God in between? The self was sufficient enough to explain everything. So that is why there is another scholar of Edmund Husserl by name Eugen Fink, who was also interested in bringing in the concept of God into Husserl's phenomenology. He wrote so many letters to Edmund Husserl saying that, sir, I am planning to introduce the concept of God as a transcendental being into the phenomenology. So what is your suggestion? So all the letters which I have gone through, it implies that Husserl was never interested at all. He say that if you are interested, you can go ahead, but I have nothing to do with that. My phenomenology stands as an epistemological discipline, and it would remain as it is forever. And the first questions are that which you had raised, the universal and local epoche. Husserl would say that the local epoche gets transformed into the universal epoche. When by the local epoche, I attain the transcendental ego as the solid foundation of knowledge, then that gives rise to what is called universal knowledge. Just like we say, the whiteness, the cowness, redness, all these are universals. And these universals has to be conformed from the local to the intersubjective community. I had used a concept called as intersubjectivity or intersubjective community. Intersubjective community means a society or a community of all transcendental subjectivities where a certain knowledge gets conformed by the conformation of each one of them. It is a kind of a coherence acceptance of each member of that community. So therefore, it is a transformation from the local to the universal. Begins with the local and culminates in the universal. This is what is my little understanding, sir.
Thank you, sir. Very nice. Yes, and some points Professor Bose has highlighted, that is rebirth and Buddha's concept of a memory. So Dr. Maharana
Oh,
wanted to say
I'm so
that
sorry. I'm so sorry. I forgot to explain
yes,
that. I forgot to
yes,
reply to that. Okay. The survival of ego. Sir had raised a question pertaining to the survival of the ego. So why not the survival of the ego cannot extend beyond the phenomenal world? Why not it continue its transcendental life? Buddha and Shankara, for example, can also be compared with Husserl. This is what Sir has said, that why not we speak about the rebirth, even the next birth. As I mentioned just now, that Husserl was never interested in any kind of metaphysical business. He said that the goal of philosophy is not to build any kind of metaphysical theory. The prime business of phenomenological program is to attain the indubitable knowledge of the existing world only. When Husserl discusses the objectives of phenomenology, there one of the objective is to attain indubitable knowledge, just like Rene Descartes. These terms he uses again and again to attain indubitable knowledge of the existing world. This word existing world has been highlighted. So it implies that logically he was not interested in any kind of otherworldly business. So therefore, the questions of rebirth and life after is not the implication of his statement that the transcendental ego will live on and live on. By this, perhaps he means that this ego cannot be further reduced by any other thing or any other ego. This is the final ego. It cannot be reduced at all. In that sense, only he speaks about that it survives even all destruction of the universe. One question that has been raised by one of the critics of Husserl, saying that where from this transcendental ego arises? Where is the origin of this ego? Who has created it? To this, Husserl replies very interestingly. He says, this transcendental ego is self-constituted. It is self-created. It is self-formed. It creates itself first, and then it creates rest of the epistemological phenomena. Just like if we go back to the philosophy of Ramanuja, Vedanta of Ramanuja, we find when he defines consciousness, he uses two technical terms: Sarupa Bhuta Jnana and Dharma Bhuta Jnana. Consciousness has these two distinct properties with it. By Sarupa Bhuta Jnana, consciousness lights itself first. It gets illuminated first. And then, in the next step, it tries to light other things in and around. This is Dharma Bhuta Jnana, qualitative consciousness. Perhaps exactly in the same way, Husserl wants to say that the ego is self-constituted. It constitutes itself first. It creates, it brings its own existence first. Nobody else can create it. And then it constitutes the rest of the universe, the rest of the phenomena. Sir.
Thank
Then
you. Thank
one
you.
thing it creates a problem is uh, if we
Sir.
make go outside the bracketing, that it cannot be put into phenomenological reduction, ego. Then the problem will become this, that ego will become presuppositionless, and in the process it is delving into the metaphysical things, into the metaphysics. So Husserl, at times, even if he denies that he is what he is doing is an epistemological business, behind this, that is what I am telling, because they are very the Germans, their very mind is itself is like us, like the that is what I was telling you. Thank you for your interpretation.
Is it a logical presupposition or a metaphysical presupposition? The ego, the transcendental ego, what Husserl is talking about, is it logical presupposition of epistemology or metaphysical presupposition? I think it is logical presupposition. Hello? Am I audible, sir? Dr. Maharana? Hello?
I think some network problem is there for him.
Please wait. Please wait.
Okay, if it is logical
But sir,
presupposition, then
your intervention is quite interesting. That it might be possible, and it is more plausible that it is logical presupposition rather than metaphysical. Yeah,
then the stand of Ranjit Gosar does not stand. There is no question of
yeah.
metaphysics.
Yeah.
If it is the
Sir,
logical
moreover,
presupposition, as Immanuel Kant says also, a
yeah,
synthetic unity of our perception is
yeah,
there as the behind of all types of perception. Perceptions are possible only because of there is a synthetic unity of our perception. We cannot deny
exactly.
that. It is a logical presupposition. It is not a metaphysical
Yeah,
presupposition. But in Vedanta, Shankara gives a metaphysical presupposition that consciousness is pure consciousness. It is Satchit Ananda in its Swarupa nature. It is a metaphysical presupposition. Husserl does not admit that. He says the transcendental ego is nothing but a logical presupposition of epistemology, without which we cannot hold the discrete
which,
pictures of
yeah, and
discrete units of yes,
yeah,
which
which gives
bridges the
me,
gap, which bridges
yeah,
the
yeah,
gap.
yeah,
Otherwise, we cannot form a judgment. So
and
that he
which gives meaning, sense, and constitute the world in other sense.
yes,
Yeah,
and Husserl
absolutely.
puts an end this topic here. He does
Yeah,
not go to
yeah, yeah,
the extent of a
absolutely.
metaphysics.
No,
So
this
let
is
us
very
close.
good
He
creative
says,
intervention, sir.
yes. No. I don't. Okay, we shall continue. So now
Nee,
I shall.
absolutely. Achha, just sir, I want to substantiate. So, I want to make a point.
Yes.
Moreover, when the discussion about the universal and local was going on, in fact, to my mind, one another point came that Husserl was also talking about adiatic reduction. If, uh, after the epoche, another reduction was adiatic reduction to grasp the eidos or essences. And his method of grasping the essences is quite different from the empirical method. For Husserl, he used to say that we can grasp the essence of a thing in one instance only. There is no need to have so many things and then we had to do generalization from particulars as we do in empirical method. For Husserl, we can grasp the essence of a chair, for example. Uh, he states that when I perceive a chair, I also perceive or grasp its chairness, its differentia from other things. So it means that for him, we cannot isolate universals from particular. This is my humble submission.
Yeah, yeah. Neeraj ji, so nice to see you here once again
Thank
after a
you.
long time.
Yeah. After
Great, great, great.
Calcutta. Yeah.
Yes, yes. After Calcutta again, we are meeting in
Yeah.
online mode.
It is. Yeah.
Sir, sir, sir,
It
sir, sir.
it was
Thank you very much, sir,
beautiful
for our conversation.
presentation. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Su,
Thank you,
doc,
thank you.
doc,
Yeah, I
doc,
do agree with
Welcome.
you. Yes, yes, yes.
Dr. Prasant Suklaji
Eidetic
is
reduction. Actually, he just a minute. Let me just bring in a few words for Professor Neeraj. Actually, Husserl doesn't mention types of reduction. In fact, in different writings, he uses the word reduction by by several terminologies. For example, at some place, he speaks about phenomenological reduction, and in phenomenological reduction, he says that the phenomenological ego or the psychological ego is bracketed, is reduced, thereby making room for the transcendental ego. At some other places, also, he speaks about the eidetic reduction, as you mentioned, to bring in the essences from the facts.
Yeah.
And in some other places, he speaks about a kind of a transcendental reduction as well. And what is the purpose of transcendental reduction? To obtain the transcendental ego, differentiating it from the objectivity. The objectivity has to be attained as a pure object, which he calls it the essence. We are not interested in facts. We are interested in the essences of facts,
Essences.
which are intuited, by
Yeah.
the transcendental ego.
Dental subjectivity. Yeah.
Yes. So that's why varieties of reductions he speaks about at different context. So finally, the ultimate object is the transcendental ego that has to be attained. Yeah. Pramod
Dr.
sir.
Dr.
Right.
Suklaji, have your observation.
Uh, Thank you, sir. It's a very interesting comparison, though I must admit, I am always a bit scared by the poetic and flowery language of phenomenology. Sometimes it goes against the systematic process usually preferred by the philosophers. Uh, when we start any phenomenological discussion with the concept of intentionality, it automatically presumes that consciousness is a two term predicate. So, if there is consciousness, there is bound to be consciousness of something. So, if it is a two predicate term, my problem is how can we define consciousness without any predicate? So that has always been my problem, but well, that is a personal understanding. My next problem is it really justified to compare the consciousness of Husserl with the consciousness of phenomenology? Because I believe, maybe I'm wrong, that it is superficially a very interesting kind of comparison, but if we go in deeper analysis, we find that somehow we are committing a sort of category mistake. The phenomenologists like Husserl are bound to talk about uh, that kind of consciousness which gives a subjective, lived, first order narrative understanding of whatever it is, if we call it consciousness. But in Shankaracharya, the consciousness means transcending all subjective experiences. So these are two different kind of definitions of consciousness, and I don't know how can we compare them. And lastly, you have two times repeated the term that a philosopher in phenomenology is always searching for a doubtless knowledge. But if the knowledge is a lived experience, how can it be doubtless? I mean, what are the litmus paper test? What are the parameters by which I would make my own subjective experience to be doubtless or certain or clear, whatever it is? Thank you, sir.
Ah, Prasantji, so nice to see you here in the online platform. And thank you very much for your thought-provoking questions. Uh, Let me try to respond to your questions in this way. First of all, you said that consciousness has a two-word formation. Now, the two words that we find in defining consciousness, that consciousness and its object, this kind of a form of consciousness is fully revealed only after we apply the suspension or the epoche. Before that, it cannot be defined what is its real nature. We can only assume by way of explanation or adhering to the principles given to us by the Western philosophical tradition. We can simply assume, we can simply presume, but then its real nature could be revealed only by the application of the method of epoche. Then only we say that consciousness by nature is intentional. Then only we know it. Otherwise, intentionality could not be discovered of consciousness. Secondly, you talked about the superficial comparison, that it can be very well, not only many have said that it could be a superficial comparison of Husserlian concept of consciousness with that of the Advaita or the Sankaracharya's concept of consciousness. There is no doubt about this. But then, when we closely look at both these philosophers from the epistemological perspective, bearing the metaphysical and others, soteriological and others, if we focus on the epistemological level, we find that both these philosophers have a common interest. And the common interest is attainment of certain knowledge of the self. Sankaracharya would use the word self, Atman or Brahman. Husserl would use the word pure consciousness or transcendental subjectivity. So, these two epistemological domains can be appreciated for the other. So, here my attempt is not to make a comparative study at all. I wanted to appreciate the Advaita epistemology after going through a serious study of Husserl's epistemology. So I came back to home to appreciate my own tradition. So it is a result of just, uh, finding out, rediscovering how great the Indian intellectual tradition was all about quite a long, many centuries ago. Husserl speaks about the epistemological edifice only in the 20th century, but Advaita had already discussed many of its concepts, epistemological issues, at least 13 or 1400 years back. So that can be appreciated. So it is in connection with that appreciation that I wanted to conduct this study. Why not look for parallels? There can be parallels of thought, development of thoughts in a parallel way. That can also be appreciated. So if in case of literature this can happen, so why not in philosophy? So that was the idea. And then lastly, you talked about a doubtless state, right? Okay. Now, philosophical inquiry, as far as Sankara's Vedanta is concerned, certainly the goal is from doubt to doubtless. Shankaracharya begins his philosophy from the Adhyasa Bhasya, where he finds only error. We study it as the theory of error, perceptual error. Life is a result of human life as a result of this error or doubt. So doubt is the ground of adhyas, where we doubt whether this is a rope or a snake. So from doubt we move towards the state of doubtlessness. This is true of at least the Advaita phenomenology. Now, when you look at Husserl, we find that, or any reader in general can find, that he fights against David Hume like anything. That there cannot be any doubt at the ultimate analysis. If doubt could not be transformed into knowledge, then all sorts of epistemology is a failure in its attempt. So one should arrive at the ultimate stand of the noesis on the one hand and noema on the other hand. Of course, they can be developed, they can be enriched, they can be improved. Improvements are always open, but then their base, fundamental base, is completely beyond any sort of doubt. That's where the success of phenomenology, otherwise, it could be superficial. Prasanji.
Thank you.
This is my take as of now.
Yes, this is very nice. Very nice response. I think the interaction part was more enjoyable than the presentation part. Any other question from anybody? Otherwise, we shall come to the concluding part. Any remark, any response from anybody present here? Okay. Now my duty is to land the flight into the airport. We should have a very smooth landing. If it is not smooth, then Dr. Maharana will conclude. The message is very clear. This is a comparison between Adi Shankaracharya and Edmund Husserl. They have two chairs. Both of them, what they say commonly, what is common to both of them? Both of them claim that if any knowledge is possible, it is through man. Because if man is not there, there is no possibility of knowledge, no question of knowledge, no question of interaction, no question of philosophy. Philosophical discussion is there because there is a human interference into the reality. Number one. Number two, then what is that in man that entertains knowledge? Both of them claim. Also, in wider sense, Shankara says it is mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara, that is in man. And Husserl says it is mind and intentionality. It is clear. Both of them are same in these points. When man is helpless, why he is helpless? Because if he wants to know something, he has to obey the commands of these instruments. If There is a mind. Mind has certain conditions. Mind has certain that therefore the process of reduction came. Otherwise, there is no question of reduction. Preoccupied thoughts, beliefs, dogmatic thoughts. These are all friends of mind. And yes, just I am repeating because the last half minute is lost. Recording is lost. So if man depends upon mind, then man is helpless because we have to go through the mind. In Western culture, they do not believe in chitta, buddhi, mano, buddhi, chitta, ahankar. They do not have so many concepts. They simply believe in mind. And to a certain extent, Husserl is giving importance to intentionality. By that way, it is very much clear that whatever we know through the conditionality of mind, it is phenomenal. It is phenomenal by nature. Immanuel Kant also says that. Whatever we know through categories of understanding, that is phenomenal. So to understand phenomenology is nothing but to understand the conditions of understanding, conditions of human intelligence, conditions of human knowledge. In Indian tradition, Shankaracharya is saying that it's Mano, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar. There is a level of mind, that is a state of emotion. Beyond that, there is intellect, that is the discriminative knowledge. Beyond that, there is Ahankara, what he is saying, transcendental ego, that is Ahankara in Vedanta. Then that is called Chitta, that is memory, past memory. All these things are required for having phenomenal knowledge in Advaita Vedanta. Mind and intentionality are required for understanding phenomenology in Western philosophy. But man is man. Man has a capacity to transcend his limitations. Man can be the observer, man can be the witness. That is called Sakhi consciousness, Sakhi Chetana. I am conscious of something. That is the nursery stage of knowledge. Consciousness is there and the object is there, consciousness of something. This is the nursery stage of knowledge. But at the same time, I am conscious of my consciousness. I am conscious that I am conscious. I am conscious of my mental conditions. That is called vrittis in Vedanta. Vrittis, different conditions. We have to transcend the vrittis. Dr. Maharana is saying, advocating both the Eastern and Western philosophers, if the guardian is not there, if the teacher is not there, guardian means the thoughtless consciousness, the formless consciousness, the vruti-vihina, vruti-less. There is no vruti, no unmodified, formless, nirguna. That consciousness is not there. There is no sakhi, so there is no formation of knowledge. It is also accepted by Immanuel Kant, as I said, synthetic unit of perception. But the difference between Husserl and Shankara is that Husserl says it is a logical presupposition that we should have a permanent state of consciousness, unchanging state of consciousness, through which we can have a very through which we can only have phenomenological possibility of an epistemology, otherwise not. So this possibility is admitted by a Western philosopher, the credit goes to that, which is generally by nature, by blood, it is there in Indian philosophy. That we presuppose consciousness as the primordial. That is the pure consciousness, that I am conscious of my consciousness. So in both these two philosophers, we find the similar points in which they agree. Husserl stops at logical ending of epistemology. Shankara steps forward to another station and he claims that it is not only logical, it is also metaphysical in the sense it is the reality as such. Therefore, it is Advaita. That means consciousness of object, this is cancelled. Consciousness and object, they are one. We cannot make a differentiation between truth and chit, sat and chit. Even we cannot be distinguished from Ananda. These three states are combined together. So, at a point, Professor Ghosh said that Neti Neti also does not regarding Neti Neti and Sachidananda. Here, Sachidananda is just a way to understand Brahman. If we are using language, somehow we have to understand, we have to approach Brahman. So, in that sense, we are using Sachidananda. Otherwise, it is not the business of Vedanta to speak of Sachidananda. It is only Brahman. In order to understand Brahman, we are taking the help of language or certain concepts. Therefore, we are elaborating the concept of Brahman by saying that Sat, Chit and Ananda, these are three principles but combined, but they are integral to each other. So, Neti Neti does not cancel this Sachidananda. Neti Neti means that having a phenomenal existence, first of all, we have to accept our phenomenological existence. This is the great contribution of Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant claimed that first of all, we have to accept our phenomenological existence, phenomenological knowledge. What is my phenomenological existence according to Vedanta? That I have a mana, I have a buddhi, I have chitta, I have ahankara. I can't cancel them because I am a practical man. I am getting my salary. I am doing my job in college or university. Now we are doing some works here. These are all phenomenal. We have to accept this. Why it is phenomenal? Because it has a time schedule. It will not continue overnight. It will now, it is the ending part. Therefore, whatever has a beginning and end, whatever is subject to change, that is phenomenal. But understanding that change is transcendental. If we understand, Professor Hudananda Rai is a great philosopher of our Odisha culture. He says, don't try to understand Brahman as the ultimate truth. Simply understand that Jagat is Mithya. By understanding Jagat as Mithya, you can understand that Brahman is truth. By understanding the Einstein's relativity, you can understand that there is a presupposed ultimate reality. If there is not oneness, we cannot have any knowledge of duality or plurality. Because of that oneness, we can claim that there is duality, plurality, phenomenalism, etc. So both Husserl and Shankara, they are trying to say that at least in the level of epistemology, every man should be free from their prejudiced dogmatic chamber of understanding of the limitation of their knowledge, so that there will be a passage to for the understanding of the soul, the ultimate reality, in the language of Vedanta, or in the language of Husserl, he will see the transcendental ego. We have to admit that. If we shall bypass transcendental ego, ignore transcendental ego, and we shall be only engaged in such type of two-termed knowledge or just subject and predicate, just our human interaction, that means we are halfway. Our knowledge is not mature, it's not complete, and we cannot have a complete personality. And very beautifully, Dr. Maharana said, I learned that in this session through Husserl, he is saying that we are all members of transcendental community. Transcendental community is a great thing. That means here it is an appreciation for the great mind of great people. It is an appreciation of the understanding of the great seers. That the great seers, they live in the nominal world. Immanuel Kant also said that the nominal world is the real world where practical reason works, where we live in the community of transcendental ego. That means we all should have the sense of transcendentality, though we live in pragmatically, empirically in this phenomenal world. This is my understanding of Dr. Maharana's speech, but I shall request Dr. Maharana, please have your concluding remarks in 2 or 3 lines so that we shall have a very better conclusion. Thank you, Dr. Maharana. Over to Dr. Maharana. Hello. Dr. Maharana, please have your observation. Do you agree with me with my concluding remark or not?
Yes, yes. Said Loss. Oh, oh, yes. No, actually, your last point reveals something which, to some extent, be agreeable with Husserl's thoughts when he speaks about the transcendental community or the community of intersubjectivity. Certainly, it has a epistemological underpinning. The goal of all epistemology is to obtain some sort of certain knowledge, and this knowledge can develop if and only if we have a community wherefrom we can conform from each other. So a conformatory community is required. But this is again not a presupposition. It is revealed by the epoch itself that after reduction, although I find myself as a transcendental subjectivity, I am not the only transcendental subjectivity. Along with me, there are many which constitutes the intersubjectivity. And there are not only, we do not have only my culture. Before the reduction, Husserl says that I had the idea of only my culture, my religion, my society, etc. But after the reduction gets over, after I find the transcendental ego as the survivor of this reduction, I find that there are even other cultures around. So therefore, there is a cross-cultural phenomenon is also available to my consciousness. So there is not a boundary between two cultures. Therefore, there can be a universal culture as well, provided two cultures interact with each other. Similarly, there could be an inter-religious society. And one of the students of Husserl, I recall back, Alfred Srouge, Phenomenology of Social Sciences, he had developed. So there, he confesses that he gets his idea and inspiration and motivation from Husserl only. He said that the intersubjective community is the basis of the phenomenology of social sciences. That even in case of social sciences, though it is an empirical discipline, unlike the philosophical discipline, it is based on an empirical evidence of the intersubjective connectivity of cross cultures. Therefore, there can be a cross cultural comparison as well. And therefore, there could be an unity of cultures. Srooj proposes this concept that there could be unity of cultures. And for this concept, again, he goes back to the root of Husserlian idea of intersubjectivity. So certainly, he didn't have the Indian spirit of finding the same self in all. Openly, Husserl cannot say this, which an Indian saint like Adi Shankaracharya openly say that the same self which is there in me is also with is also present in you. So Madatma Sarvabhutatma. That concept, of course, appears to be similar in spirit, but may not be openly accepted by Husserl because it can have a metaphysical implication as well. Had it been a logical implication only, Husserl would have no problem in accepting it. But since it carries a metaphysical tone, it may not be acceptable to Husserl. That is made.
Yes, sir.
One thing to
Ranjit sir, yes.
our concept of similar to this transcendental intersubjectivity of Husserlian transcendental intersubjectivity, by which we all belong to one, that oneness of things. That this is the same thing as I think that is the idea of Husserl. But one thing, Dr. Maharana, we have, from the very beginning, he has said that for Shankara, this is already there, the knowledge of I consciousness, but Husserl tried to discover it. So that is why for Husserl, it is discovery of I consciousness. So if it is a discovery of I consciousness, there is no question of presupposition, and Husserl is right in that case. Thank you.
Sir.
Very clear, sir. Thank you, sir. So we shall conclude here. Now I shall request Dr. Kailash Chandra Maharana to propose a vote of thanks. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thanks so much, Dr. Das, for your observation. And today it's a great day for all of us, for the members of philosophy family. And today, Dr. Das has benefited us by his by his creativity, by his novel or innovative way of clarification and comparison of both the philosophy. And until now, we have with us Professor Vijay, Professor Vishnu Prasad, Professor Aradhya Kumar, Professor Rudra Prasad, Madam Apragya Paramita, Dr. Prasant Shukla, Professor Niraj Kumar, Madam Kalyani Sarangi, Dr. Ina Pidale, and many scholars and teachers of philosophy. On behalf of philosophy, I extend my gratitude to all the peers to be with us in this brilliant session of webinar. And today we have enjoyed the observations made by Dr. Prashant Shukla sir, Professor Niraj Kumar sir, Professor Ranjit Ghosh sir, and Professor Dr. Pramod Kumar Das. And lastly, we have also listened the concluding observation of Professor Ranjit Ghosh sir. And today, what has benefited me is Professor Surya Kant Maharana's way of exploration of both the philosophy of Advaita Vedanta and the philosophy of Husserl. And he has given a very foundational structure of consciousness, comparing both the philosophy and he has made it very clear that the aim of both philosophy is for transcending the subjective experience. And today, I I extend my gratitude to uh, my junior brother, Dr. Surya Kant Maharana, for highlighting the epistemological domain of the Vedantic concept of Neti Neti and Husserl's concept of epoch and I consciousness, because he has made it very, very clear that the goal of both philosophy is from doubt to doubtless, and which we have seen in Wittgenstein philosophy, the concept clarity is the foundation of all knowledge. And he has given the commonality of the perspective of both Shankar and Husserl in very through his innovative way of presentation. And what Dr. Maharana has done, that he has made a connectivity, has given his visionary uh, conclusion that is on the nature of consciousness of both philosophy, because he had made it very clear that goal of all knowledge is self-knowledge, and Husserl has given his a perspective of self-knowledge or I consciousness, which seems to be the foundation of all knowledge, or said to be the foundational structure of consciousness, which is free from all kinds of misconceptions, and all kinds of doubt, all kinds of misunderstanding. And Professor Maharana has tried to define Vedantic concept uh, of Neti Neti or pure consciousness through Western idioms or the Western perspectives, by giving the logical method, by giving the logical implication, which is very, very important. And he has given his thought how to that is to highlight and to realize the intersubjectivity, and he has given that how the transcendental consciousness can be realized, that is in Husserl's concept, Husserl's way of presenting the interpersonal subjectivity. And Professor Maharana has given the thing that the cross-cultural uh, community can be established, and he has given the unity of cultures, that is through the way of exploration of both the philosophy, and he has very clearly defined Husserl's idea of intersubjectivity, and which Vedanta also says this, the same self that is in all, and through the concept I consciousness. So today, Dr. Maharana has given a very clear concept of both the philosophy, and at first he had said that it is my old idea, but for us it is not the old idea. It is his creativity. It is a novel way of discussion, and it is a good innovation that he has done in his doctoral thesis, and it will show a new light for the scholars, for the new scholars, for the young scholars, to work on work on different concepts of Indian philosophy in comparison with Western philosophy. And we can see Indian philosophy with Western philosophy. And this kind of comparison that is will be helpful for all kinds of scholars, and it will give a new light to philosophy. So thanks so much, Professor Maharana, for giving a new light in philosophy, and for having a good a creative work in philosophy uh, in giving the comparison of both philosophy. And we all have been benefited by your talk. We all have been benefited by your your responses that you have done to our brilliant scholars, to our brilliant professors like Professor Ghosh, Professor Shukla, Professor Niraj Kumar, Professor Pramod Kumar Das. So it is a good interaction. So I love it. And I extend my good wishes to you. I extend my gratitude to you to grow and grow in philosophy, and being a scholar of our state, you have proven your scholarly aptitude in the national level, in the international level. So I extend my congratulations again and again to you, and I extend my best wishes to our alumni, Professor Pramod Kadas, for having a connectivity with you to present such a brilliant lecture that you have done today. Thanks so much, Dr. Maharana. Thanks so much, Dr. Das. Thanks so much to all the viewers, those who have attended the beautiful webinar. You have made it very meaningful and enlightened. Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
Dr.
Thank you, sir.
Das.
Surya
Okay,
sir,
Dr. Das.
Surya sir, Dr. Maharana,
Sir,
sir,
sir, go on.
can we say only one sentence that
Yeah.
according to both Husserl and Sankara, knowledge is experience. Can we say like this?
Knowledge is experience.
Experience, self-realization.
Knowledge has to be experienced, we can say.
Yes. No,
Knowledge.
knowledge is perception cancelled. Knowledge is inferential cancelled. By cancelling, by reductioning all these things, can we come to the end that knowledge is experience? Then only we can reach at the transcendental ego. Otherwise,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
cannot. Otherwise, we cannot transcend. We are transcending means we are taking knowledge into the level of experience. I mean that
Correct.
in both the cases.
But
Sir, I think we can say that knowledge is subject's experience in intersubjective world. That will
Yes,
save us from
yes.
solipsism.
In
Yeah.
that sense.
Yeah. Yes.
yes,
In
very
that
right.
sense.
Rightly observed by Neeraj that the real nature of knowledge can be discovered only at the intersubjective level.
Yes.
If I do it at my personal level, I could be mistaken.
Yes.
Unless and until
Yes.
all of you confirm that yes, whatever I consider to be knowledge is really knowledge.
Yes.
Take for
Thank you.
example, what I consider to be a duster will become a duster if and only if all of you endorse it and call it a duster.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it won't be knowledge in the true sense of the term.
Yes. Thank
So
you.
that way, it has to be like that only.
Thank you.
Yes.
So with this, this session is declared closed. Thank you. Grateful to all of you. And I am very
Thank you.
happy that
Thanks a lot.
Dr. Maharana accepted my request just yesterday and he delivered his talk today so brilliantly, so effectively. Thank you, sir. And your
Exactly.
interaction was very nice, very effective. Thank you. That shows your
Thank you.
talent. Thank you, sir. We are all inspired by you.
Thank you, Pramod sir. Thank you very much for
Thank
giving me an opportunity again to come back to the philosophy family. Of course, I was there and I am there and I will be there in this family forever. But then, because of my hectic schedule somewhere, I couldn't connect myself to this family, despite of your regular request, constant request for delivering something in the family, especially on the concept of bhakti or role of bhakti in Shankara. I planned to deliver initially, but then I couldn't collect much material on this. So search of materials is already there, and as soon as I complete it, immediately I'll request you to give me a date for delivering this talk. But then finally, it again God's wish that you dragged me forcibly
you. Yes.
yesterday. That no, you have to come and then speak. So that's why
And
something which was there.
I used one word yesterday that please give us and please help us, and that help is academic help. And really we are benefited, sir. Really, and this is the greatest benefit of our humankind. We can
Actually, you
share.
helped me. You
This is your
helped
humility.
me.
This is your humility.
And no, it's not like that. You helped
Okay.
me to come back again. So it was a command for me.
Sir,
It's a command of
kindly
God for me.
submit, sir, kindly submit your paper, sir. So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we
of
shall
course.
publish. We shall publish in our edited book.
Yeah,
And
yeah. So give me
Neeraj sir, you are again requested to deliver a talk.
Right, sir. I will try. I will.
Yes.
Yes.
ठीक है, we shall meet again. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, sir. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neeraj ji.